Wonderful, wasn't it, to see our reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, back up and around, performing light duties over at Windsor Castle alongside her son, His Royal Highness Prince Charles, proving again and again that while we're always writing off the wonderful Queen, she seemingly just bounces back. On one of the hottest days of the year, she was giving out, of course, those wonderful medals and awards to all the wonderful people of the National Health Service, and in particular those that developed the wonderful vaccines against COVID-19, and showing, of course, that she's still got a great sense of humour, because she did make some quips about still being alive after the vaccine, which just proves, doesn't it, that she truly has her finger on the pulse. What I think a lot of people admire about Her Majesty the Queen is that, she basically does things, but very quietly. This is what's really endured people to her for so long, over 70 years. She simply gets on with the job, doesn't create a fuss, and of course, more importantly, just really signifies exactly what the public are thinking. There've been one or two blips, of course, but everything's been smooth sailing. But it's reassuring to note, isn't it, that even in this particular time of her life, she definitely has her finger on the pulse. And this is more noticeable than ever with, of course, her once favourite grandson, Prince Harry. So let me explain. As we now know, Prince Harry's book has hit something of the buffers in terms of legalities. And as I've said to you before, it's very difficult writing an autobiography, particularly when those people are still alive. Unauthorised biographies are normally the way, simply because most of the people can't really contradict things that you've said or spoken to with other people. So it makes it really difficult to pinpoint exactly who said what and when. The bigger problems, of course, for Prince Harry really is that, yes, you can put any story you want down, but moving forward into the bigger realms, if those people are still with us, they can sue and contradict your story big time, and that doesn't really work well. Now, one of the bigger problems that Prince Harry's got, and we can tell you this exclusively here on the show, but as ever we have to insert the allegedly, is the fact that he wanted to detail his side of versions of events of how he exactly decided to extract himself from the British monarchy, which was dubbed a term that he really didn't like, called Megxit. So let me explain. Part of the book was going to centralise on the fact of that now infamous Sandringham summit. Do you remember, where he was called forward to explain his actions and what he planned to do and how and when, and the half in, half out, all that sort of stuff. And then the bigger story, if you remember, was that Meghan Markle similarly didn't want to face members of the British monarchy, but was going to dial in from Canada. And rather astutely, once again, our gracious Majesty the Queen knocked that on the head very quickly. So that basically left Harry to face the music alone. As we know, behind this book, which is ghostwritten by a celebrated author, we really do know the fact that, of course, this will be Meghan Markle's words, and they were very keen to get their version of events into that book. But sadly, this is one of the areas that's hit the buffers, because of course you can't detail conversations with our gracious monarch in detail. It's just not allowed, it's not form. Now, of course, Prince Harry would know this, but the publishers would be pushing ahead for greater detail. And this is what's one of the legal problems in that, because what you can do is put Prince Harry's side, but you can't put the responses back from the monarch. It simply wouldn't be done. Now, as we know, looking back at that particular story, she did offer them a chance a year out to decide if they wanted to change their mind moving forward. Seemingly they passed that and didn't. So, of course, as far as she's concerned, the whole matter's closed, and more importantly, private. But for Prince Harry, he's got a book to sell, and even more importantly, he has to make sure he gets the remaining part of that massive, massive paycheck. And for him, without this particular story, once again, it's making the forthcoming man that he's become look a very lame book indeed. Neil Sean in the very heart of London.